I once had a teacher, Miss Maloney, who decided to introduce a philosophical puzzle to our class. "Everyone try not to think of a pink elephant on the wall," she said. "See, you can't do it, can you?" She was right. All I could think of was a pink elephant. I was still thinking of that pink elephant later that day, and at dinner next week, and even at school later that month. In the years that followed, that pink elephant was replaced with a variety of other perplexing thoughts or obsessive-compulsive fixations. I worried about contracting diseases, especially symptomless diseases, where my lack of physical complaints simply confirmed the severity of my case. I worried the draft would be reinstated, expanded to include women, and I would be sent to the front. I worried I would go blind, or deaf, or lose my hair, or even be burned by acid and people would hate me. I worried a girl who looked identical to me would commit a crime for which I would go to prison, where my cellmate would hate me and I would go blind and lose my hair. At the age of 19, I started seeing psychiatrists who diagnosed me with obsessive personality disorder.
You see, the thing is, I'm afraid I might do inappropriate things.
The more that Karen had all these thoughts, the more she felt certain that one day she would do something awful, which produced, of course, more thoughts. I liked Karen. I liked Karen a lot, but to be honest, she was kind of nuts.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it, but sometimes I'm afraid I might, and that would be really inappropriate as well.
Next, I met the twins, and they were just sick. I don't know what kind of childhood these guys had, but for some reason they were both plagued by images of having sex with their own mother.
Well, yeah, you could say Buford and I were a little pampered as kids. Our mother breastfed us until we were 5 years old, and she bathed and dressed us until we were about 12.
Weird, I know, but I want to sleep with my mom.
Well, we realized that we shared the same fantasy when I was sneaking around looking through my mother's bathroom window. And then I saw my brother here doing the same thing, looking through her door. And I was kind of jealous. It really hurt.
Whoa! Excuse me for a second, I just,
Oh, it's my mom.
I'd sleep with your mom.
Shut up.
You're with who? Yeah, that's alright. No, that's alright. Okay. Love you too. Later.
Well, the peeping Tom stuff went on for a couple weeks before our dad caught us, and here we are now.
That sucks, because all my friends are like, oh, your mom's hot. I'd sleep with your mom, dude. I'm like, shut up, I don't want to hear that.
I don't know why, I just can't get my mom off of my mind. I can't help it.
Okay. And then there was Chip, the dark, reclusive guy who was scared that he might be a serial killer.
I've never hurt anybody, but I could if I wanted to. Oh, just one of these days I'm just gonna go crazy.
Doesn't mean you've never been violent. That means I won't. That doesn't.
Chip thought it was possible. I thought it was possible. I think the rest of the group thought it was possible too. Chip was by far the scariest member of the group. He was just insane.
But that doesn't mean that I couldn't be. But I mean not violent, but being violent and I could.
Okay, today we're going to talk about obsessive thoughts. Trying to get rid of them only makes them worse. So next week we're going to start confronting our fears. At the end of the 4th week, my insurance was about to run out, and I began thinking, At the end of the 4th week, my insurance was about to run out, and I started thinking to myself, what if this intensive therapy doesn't work? This is the last resort. I should have saved the last resort. The next step after this is being locked up in a mental hospital where I'll be mistreated and given outdated shock therapy, and where they won't have good eye care, and I'll surely go blind. I'll be given a lobotomy and then gang raped by soldiers for $2 a throw. The more I tried not to think about my upcoming lobotomy and gang raping, the more the thoughts kept marching through my head. When I left therapy 2 weeks later, someone gave me a book of quotes.
The trick is not to mind. 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 Not to mind. The trick is 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 not to mind.
That is what I learned. The trick is not to mind. But lastly, I would like to say to my teacher, Miss Maloney, thanks for the journey. Thanks a lot.